You scroll, you watch, you react. But when was the last time you truly thought? Thinking has become exhausting. It requires silence, patience, and honesty. In a world that rewards noise and speed, silence feels like failure. So you keep moving, not forward, just faster. Ask yourself, when did you last sit with a single idea until it changed you? You tell yourself you're informed, but your mind is fed like a machine data without digestion. Everyone has an opinion, few have understanding. Slowly you stop questioning, because questioning isolates you. You nod along not to agree, but to belong. Consider a simple example. You read a headline, react, but rarely read the whole piece. Why? Somewhere inside a quiet voice whispers, "This isn't real thinking." But that voice gets buried beneath trends, outrage, and algorithms. Thinking once meant rebellion. Now it feels like disobedience. The world wants reaction, not reflection. Try this. Pause for 10 breaths before you like, share, or comment. Notice the difference in how you respond. Most people don't think they repeat. They echo what's popular, afraid to be wrong alone. It's safer to mimic than to reason. But imitation creates emptiness, and emptiness seeks distraction. That's how collective sleep begins. Think of conversations where everyone speaks at once and no one listens. What grows from that? An echo, not truth. When you stop thinking for yourself, someone else begins thinking for you. Systems love silence, not the kind found in meditation, but the silence of obedience. And the more disconnected you feel, the louder the system speaks for you. Picture how easy it is to swap a belief for a slogan without testing it against reality. Who gains from that trade? The human mind was built to wander, question, and doubt. But doubt is treated as weakness now. You're told to trust the crowd, follow the flow, keep your head down. But the soul doesn't evolve in agreement. It awakens in friction. Reflect on one belief you defend loudly. What would you learn if you tested it honestly? Every civilization that lost its ability to think eventually collapsed, not from war, but from conformity. The moment a society fears truth more than comfort, it begins to decay from within. You can already feel that decay in the air. Imagine a world where questions are rewarded more than quick answers. What would change in you? Thinking requires courage. Not intelligence, not education. The courage to sit with uncertainty, to ask questions no one wants answered. The courage to say, "I don't know," and keep exploring anyway. Ask, when have you avoided a hard question because it felt risky? That avoidance is where thinking dies. You can't think when you're constantly performing. Modern life is a stage built on approval. Every opinion is shaped for likes, not for truth. But the mind that always performs can never truly awaken. It only acts awake. Remember a moment when you spoke to be seen rather than to understand. What did you lose in that exchange? You've been trained to choose sides before you even understand the question. Every issue is polarized, every voice categorized. But real thought doesn't live in extremes. It lives in nuance, in the quiet space between certainty and chaos. Consider how often you reduce a complex problem to a slogan. What nuance are you missing? Jung once said people will do anything to avoid facing their own soul. Today, that absurdity is distraction. We escape into stimulation because stillness confronts us with our emptiness. When last did you sit without your phone and listen to your thoughts? That silence is where honest questions appear, and honest questions are the seeds of thinking. But real awareness begins there in the void you've been running from. When you sit in silence long enough, you start hearing what the noise was hiding. The fear, the doubt, the truth. Thinking is just listening without escaping. Try this experiment. For 5 minutes, notice what thoughts repeat. What are they protecting you from? The collective mind thrives on emotional reaction. Outrage keeps you predictable. Calmness, however, makes you ungovernable. That's why peace is so rare. It's the most radical form of thought left. Ask, does your anger come from clarity or from habit? If you can choose calm, you step outside the predictable loop. You think you're informed, but you're being conditioned. The goal isn't your awareness, it's your attention. And attention, once captured, becomes control. The less you think, the easier you are to steer. Consider how platforms design your feed to keep you reacting. What would change if you designed your attention instead? But thinking is freedom, not rebellion for its own sake, but liberation through clarity. When you see the mechanism, you stop being the mechanism. Awareness breaks the loop. Think of the last time you questioned a comfortable belief and discovered something that changed you. What did that clarity buy you? You don't awaken by learning more, but by unlearning what isn't yours. Every borrowed belief takes space from your own insight. The mind clears when you stop defending ideas that don't belong to you. Imagine pruning a garden. What weeds of thought would you pull to let your mind bloom? The modern illusion is progress without consciousness. Faster technology, slower minds. More information, less understanding. We've mistaken movement for growth and noise for connection. How much of your day is motion without meaning? What would happen if you traded some speed for depth? Thinking deeply doesn't mean overanalyzing. It means perceiving reality beyond conditioning. You don't have to fight the system. You outgrow it by seeing through it. Try holding two opposing ideas and asking what both might reveal. What new perspective could that synthesis offer? The moment you realize that most thoughts you have aren't truly yours, awakening begins. Awareness feels lonely at first. It separates you from the crowd, but that distance is sacred. Reflect on a moment you disagreed quietly and later realized you were right. Did the solitude feel like punishment or permission? Thinking is an act of love toward truth, toward life, toward yourself. It's how you reclaim your humanity in a mechanized world. When you choose careful thought, you honor the people who will come after you. Who do you think you are protecting when you prefer noise over clarity? True thought isn't cold or detached. It's alive, intuitive, rooted in soul. It doesn't seek to dominate, it seeks to understand. That's what makes it human. Consider that understanding others starts with understanding your own resistance. What feels threatening about seeing another view? When you start thinking again, you feel everything more intensely. The world's confusion, its beauty, its contradictions. But that sensitivity is power. It means your mind is awake. Notice how small things move you now. Are you avoiding feeling before or learning from it? The collective illusion breaks slowly. One honest observation at a time. One quiet why. Whispered in a room full of noise. That's how the real revolution begins. Try asking one genuine question, today open-ended, not leading. What answer might it reveal? Every time you pause before reacting, you reclaim your mind. Every time you question a narrative, you weaken the spell. This is the hidden rebellion of awareness. Practice a tiny pause. Count to 3 before you click. What shifts in your response when you do? You can't change a world you still obey. And obedience today doesn't look like fear. It looks like endless distraction. The more entertained you are, the less you notice your chains. Think, what habitual comfort have you mistaken for freedom? Naming it is the first step toward choice. But the soul remembers freedom. Somewhere beneath the noise it still whispers, "Wake up." And when you listen, even for a second, the illusion cracks. Try a brief practice of noticing where does your attention drift. Follow that thread and ask why it pulled you. Awakening isn't grand. It's subtle. It happens in small moments of seeing clearly, when thought becomes truth instead of imitation. Notice the tiny clarities. A corrected assumption, a softened judgment, an honest admission. These are the quiet milestones of awakening. And when you think again, really think, you stop being easy to manipulate. The world stops being a blur. You begin to choose consciously, not habitually. Consider one habitual reaction you can test today. How might a different response change the outcome? Thinking is not dying, it's waiting. Beneath the static, the human spirit is still alive, ready to remember itself. All it needs is your attention. Ask yourself, if you reclaimed 5 minutes a day to think, what would you discover about your life and your choices? So think, slowly, bravely, not to be right, but to be real. Because the moment you begin to think for yourself again, you end the collective dream and start awakening the world. Share a small insight, ask a harder question, and let conversation become the practice that keeps thought alive.